So as an overview, today we're going to discuss the decision by Siemens to force their customers to upgrade from Insight to Desigo. What can you expect from this process, potential expenses associated with that, and key takeaways from this transition. We're going to touch on the Computrols approach to integrations and our specific offerings as they pertain to Siemens, our ability to support Siemens systems of any size or age, and finally share a couple of success stories with you for people that have been in your shoes before. Also like to issue this disclaimer that the content of this webinar comes from our own personal experience and content that's readily available online. So ultimately, the decisions that we're talking about here to force upgrades on somebody, this comes from a concept called planned obsolescence. It's important to note that these are business decisions, not technical. And the objective of these is clear: it's to generate revenue. If you're not familiar with this is the process of every 5 to 10 years, software upgrades are forced that aren't compatible with old hardware or vice versa. And that's where Siemens customers are finding themselves these days with the Insight to Desigo transition. We do business a little differently here at Computrols, and we'll touch on that a little later on today. The Siemens Insight platform has been in the process of being phased out over some time now by cutting off support over phased tiers. But the main takeaway for you is that the last version of Insight that was produced was marked as end of life earlier this year. So buildings that have a current Insight system, even if it was the latest and greatest of it at the time, they're being forced now to make some tough decisions. And that's where we can come in with our solutions, and that's why we're here today. Let's highlight some key takeaways. This Insight to Desigo transition, it's major. It's not an insignificant upgrade. It involves some costs, both small and large. And more importantly, it's not the last time. This will happen again. It's just a matter of time. So customers are stuck in a cycle that they're most likely looking to get out of. So what are those costs? Here's a brief, it's non-comprehensive list, but you've got labor for reprogramming, training, controllers that are no longer supported, firmware updates, and more. So, again, some small, some large, but at the end of the day, there are significant costs associated with this transition from Insight to Desigo. So before we talk about how our specific solutions for Siemens line up, let's highlight a few things that make Computrols different. For starters, one of our big selling points is we believe in empowering the end user. That's always our focus. We want our customers to have the same level of access as our technicians do when it comes to programming and software capabilities. We also maintain focus on what the user experience is when we develop products. We work to make things as simple and intuitive as possible. Our hardware solutions, everything we manufacture is built right here in the US. We currently ship most orders same day, which is no small feat these days. We build forward and backward compatibility into every product we make. So the very latest version of the software that ships today will work with the very first controller we ever assembled back when we used to build them by hand. With Computrols, there's no forced recurring costs or ongoing costs as it pertains to software and licensing. Our costs are upfront and very predictable. And also, lastly, third-party integration, what we're talking about here today, is one of our core competencies. We've been doing it for well over 4 decades now. So here's a brief list of some of the various third-party integrations we support, Siemens being one of them. It's important to note that when we do integrate with third-party protocols, it's not something that's kind of haphazardly duct taped together. These are seamless integrations. Operators, it's invisible to them whether a point's on a Siemens panel or a Computrols panel or a BACnet panel. They get a smooth, consistent interface. We like to say a point is a point. We don't care who the manufacturer or protocol is. It's also worth noting that whenever we integrate the third-party protocols like Siemens and others, we leverage existing reports and databases from that system to speed up the integration process. It's not a technician sitting there for days on end, manually entering thousands of points. Let's pull that data in automatically wherever we can. So let's take a look at our hardware lineup. These pieces on the left are called the LX controllers. Each one of these has 2 RS-485 ports and often become a key part of our integration solutions. Again, the number just refers to the number of input-output points. Those are universal, so it's very easy to apply and engineer up front. The VAV solutions are designed with integration in mind. The Uni-C at the top, you have complete control over the I/O. You can accomplish any sequence of operations that you want, but it also has Wi-Fi capabilities. So it's a great solution for retrofits because we can leverage existing or new wireless infrastructure. The VAV-B is our application-specific model, meaning it does VAV and fan coil type applications, but it's capable of communicating using several proprietary protocols: Siemens FLN, Johnson N2, Teletrolls, and as well as BACnet. Again, being perfect for retrofits if we're going with a wired topology. And we'll show you a little more about that specific capability in a few. Taking a closer look at the LX, as you can see at the top, those 2 RS-485 ports are how we accomplish third-party protocols, including Siemens. Each one of those ports is independent and can accomplish any of those protocols shown. So you have a ton of flexibility built into the product line. All these are IP-based. They're also BTL listed for BACnet and feature a lifetime warranty. As with any product that we manufacture here at our headquarters in New Orleans, everything we make features that lifetime warranty. Touching again on forward and backward compatibility. The LX is designed for easy service and easy maintaining in the field. All the wiring stays on the terminal board. If you ever have to swap one of these out, you can do so without a tool in your hand. Just simply unplug it, plug in the new one, it automatically downloads its configuration. But when we talk about forward and backwards compatibility and the forced upgrade side of the business, notice on the left is a 32X. That board is well over 2 decades old now, but it's the same form factor. So if you had made that investment with us all those decades ago and now want to upgrade to the latest and greatest technology, you can elect to do so on your own terms, but you can do so without an expensive, rewiring or any sort of complication like that. As hardware designers, we're able to create products that can meet specific challenges associated with integrations. The serial connector is an example of that. Imagine if you take the LX controller that I just showed you and focus on the integration piece, not the input and output piece. That's the serial connector. Same brain, same horsepower as an LX, but adds a third RS-485 port. And that's a direct result of us working with Siemens systems, where you will often find 3 FLN or floor level networks in one enclosure. Serial connector is a perfect fit for that. It's got a very small footprint. It's 4x4. Very flexible mounting options, so it's perfect for those applications when you're dealing with Siemens FLN, for example. And just here highlighting some of the various mounting options for this: 24-volt DC or AC, as well as power over Ethernet. So, very flexible and very capable component of a Siemens integration for Computrols. So let's talk about how the specific pieces glue together. This is an example of a typical BAS, can be Siemens or someone else. You typically have a front-end PC, an IP-based network with some parent-level controllers, supervisory controllers, if you will, and then from there, a twisted pair network for RS-485. This would be floor controllers like VAVs, et cetera. When we integrate, you can replace that front-end PC with a Computrols PC. The supervisory controllers can be replaced potentially or left in place, and we can communicate with them. And we'll discuss why you might want to do one or the other shortly. Regardless of your topology or age of your system, our team is going to work with you to analyze the best path forward. Because not every building is the same, not every approach will be the same, but we'll work with you to make sure we get you on the right path. So after integration, what do we do when controllers fail? You replace them with Computrols lifetime warranty controllers. As you can see here, the VAV was replaced in line. You can leave the other Siemens controllers in place and simply put ours in on an as-needed controller by controller basis as they failed. You can use the wired VAV-B using the Siemens FLN protocol, or perhaps you want to use the wireless Uni-C and use Wi-Fi. Choice is yours. You get to execute this migration on your time frame and on your budget. So some specifics that relate to the Siemens integration for Computrols. Number one, it's a native Siemens FLN, floor level network, BLN, building level network communication. We're not using gateways or black boxes. We are natively communicating that protocol. We trend history on each and every point always, whether it's Siemens, BACnet, Computrols, we don't care. This is a very valuable tool for day-to-day operations, and it's great for troubleshooting, especially when you get into mechanical equipment situations. Having that visibility is key. As we touched on before, we'll utilize existing databases and reports for data entry to speed up the time needed to perform the integration. There's no lengthy downtime associated with the process. The front-end PC gets replaced with CBAS. Often you'll find Insight software running on older PC that IT departments want to get out of the equation. That's part of this process to get that removed and upgraded. You can also cancel any maintenance agreements with Siemens. We get this conversation a lot. Who do we call when things fail? You're calling Computrols. So cancel that service agreement. And then remember, you have an option to either communicate with or replace the parent level controllers, depending on the particulars of your site. And then lastly, we'll replace those Siemens VAV controllers with Computrols controllers as they fail. So you don't have to do the entire channel or entire floors once. You can simply approach them as they die off. So how do we approach integrations? Regardless of protocol, our approach is comprehensive. We will always do due diligence up front to ensure there are no surprises. We're not going to quote a partial solution. We have to have a viable path forward, not only to communicate with what's there, but give that site options in the future for when things fail, when build outs, improvements happen, et cetera. We're going to work closely with the building staff to identify deficiencies, right? To identify communication issues, maybe there were poor installation factors we have to deal with. We're going to work to correct those while providing that migration pathway forward to the future. So at the end of the day, what are the results? We're going to give you an alternative solution to rip and replace, or the alternative, which is do nothing. Neither one of those are viable for a lot of places. Operators are given enhanced visibility via the continuous history saving on all points, and they gain the ability to truly operate the system in-house. You escape that product churn cycle that we talked about, and you can eliminate any dependencies on Siemens moving forward. So let's look at a few success stories. Williams Tower, third tallest building in Houston, had the usual complaints associated with many Siemens properties of, difficulty of use, numerous hot and cold calls, high operating costs. This one was unique because it started off as an integration and very quickly turned into a full replacement. Due to numerous failures, the owner wanted to accelerate that process of transitioning to Computrols hardware that had the lifetime warranty. This pair of buildings in SoCal had similar problems to the first one. Expensive to operate, excessive hot and cold calls, and really wasn't presented with viable options. They were given choice to rip and replace, which was deemed too expensive, or simply, stay on the path with Siemens, which wasn't, providing any relief for their issues. This was what we call a hybrid integration. We actually replaced the parent level controllers with LX controllers on the central plant and the air handlers, and integrated to the floor controllers, and took care of those over time as they either failed or a tenant improvement project happened. But at the end of the day, the owner controlled that process, and it was done on, again, their schedule and their budget. Here's a sample of some other Siemens integrations to kind of highlight the scalable part of this. 2445 Technology Forest. This one was unique because it's a campus environment. It had already transitioned to Desigo and was so disappointed in the results of that they brought us in. So, I know we focused on the Insight to Desigo transition. Avoiding that transition is one step, but if your property has already been past that point, we can still offer some relief. We've got a retirement complex up in Massachusetts, a municipality over in Maine that has several buildings. But the takeaway is this, regardless of the size or topology or age of your Siemens system, we have a solution in-house. We'll work with you to determine the best way forward and to determine what the best options are for your property to transition from that. I do appreciate your time. As I mentioned, please reach out if you'd like to schedule some one-on-one time to talk about the particulars of your facility or your situation. Everyone have a great day.